Hello, everyone, and welcome to the City of North Plains City Council regular session meeting Monday, March 21st, 2022 at 7 p.m. Everyone in Jesse May, please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was joyous.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
So nice.
Well, we did.
It's been a while. It's so nice to see everyone. All right. Lori, roll call, please.
Thank you. Counselor Papin,
Here.
Counselor Sheldon,
Present.
Counselor Smith,
Here.
Mayor Lenahan,
Here.
and Counselors Phage, Counselor Kindle, and Counselor Martinez are all excused this evening.
Great. Thank you. All right, item number 5 on the consent agenda is the Community Development Week proclamation, approval of the March 21st, 2022 City Council regular session agenda, and the approval of the February 22nd, 2022 City Council minutes. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections that we need to be aware of?
Just a quick correction on the staff report minutes on item B for Chief of Police monthly department report. Just needs to say Chief Axel was asked if the stolen vehicles that happened in January were nice about. Really minor fix there.
I will make that correction.
Thank you.
Any others? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda with the corrections noted to the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion on the table by Councilor Sheldon, seconded by Councilor Papin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Item number 6 is our public comment. During this time, we encourage any folks listening in on the Zoom call or in Jesse Mays to comment on anything not on the agenda. Is there anyone on the Zoom call that wishes to bring anything to the council's attention? Lori, have you received anything in writing?
I have not.
Okay. Move on. Item 7A7 is our staff report night. Tonight, library director. So you have given a few folks the night off. I know they reported in our packet.
Yep.
Did you want to highlight anything again
From there, well,
from Robin's report?
oh, from Robin's report? No, just a few of them are attending the statewide library actually, no, it's the National Library Conference. It's in Portland this week. So a few of them are attending that. And I think
That's all
no other
from
big
my
news,
grade.
just sort of captured in the report.
All right. I know they're back into in-person in the library, so I'm hoping that there's a nice, robust group of people coming and going. That's good.
So probably this week, now that it's spring break, might have some more
Oh,
people during the
yeah,
day, especially.
forgetting about
You gotta have children in there.
that. Yeah,
Got some small kids in there.
I guess it doesn't affect me and I just don't think about it, so, sorry. All right, counselors, do any of you have any questions or comments about the library report?
Here, I guess I can't ask her, but I'm just curious, like, think of the mile or something like that. And the kickoff event, something that the library could do here, like, just the file. It's put up like 4 Sacred Mile last time, so. Be interesting to see.
So you just got company plan? Yeah, you wanna shoot her an email or?
I could do that.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right, moving to item number 7B, which is police chief's report. Nothing there as well.
Chief Haxton would probably be brief anyway, so I'll be brief and just say I'll take any questions. I do know, in speaking, usually Monday we kind of round up, how the weekend's been. The last 2 weekends have been calm as far as I know, which is good. So we're in a period where maybe things were calm countywide, or some of the extra presence is helping too. I'm going to say it's a little bit of both, hopefully.
Any councilors with any comments that you'd like to provide to Andy to get back to Chief Paxton?
I have a couple of small questions. For the overtime hours, are those North Plains deputies, or is it contracted with someone else from Washington County?
Well, the OT has basically been extended shifts. So at the end of one of the night shifts and at the beginning of one of the, the early day shifts, we've been kind of able to bridge that. And for the former, kind of doing the extension at night, I know Deputy Schutz and Deputies Schutz and Conway picked up a lot of those. And then for the morning stop, it's just going to be officers from elsewhere, from around the county. Maybe an Aloha or a Weston deputy that was going to start at 7. They came in 4 hours early or something like that. And we're in OT that way. And I did want to note, I put this in the Friday bullet, but Stephen Schutz is, retiring is probably not the right word, but he's no longer going to be an officer with the county. He's pursuing other things in life. He's made a career change. Yeah. And we had sit downs with him, discussions. It's he's happy. He loved working for North Plains. He liked working for the sheriff's office. It's just something he needed to do in his life and for his family. So we'll miss him. He's a good guy.
We're going to interview for that position, or are they going to cover it till the final?
Oh, it'll be covered because we have the shift differential that guarantees coverage. So what I'll do with Haxton, he's kind of getting a short list of deputies that would be interested in. We did this before, kind of interview those top 2 or 3 that we think would be the best fit.
Is it possible to, in case, folks want to just say, thanks for your service, wish them luck. Looks like this last day is the 24th. Is there, could you provide maybe the schedule, the next day or 2, so, folks want to try to look out for him or send him an email or something?
Yeah, he'll be on Wednesday, Thursday. Well, Friday is technically his last day, but I think he's getting put through the ringer with the agency, like doing all of his closeouts, exit interview, all those sorts of things. So really it would be Wednesday and Thursday from noon until night.
Okay, great. You wanted to 2 questions. Sure that.
Yeah, and I think the other question was just looking ahead to budget season and how we are offering these overtime hours. What bucket does that come out of? And to adjust going forward. You might not have the answer to this, but
I do. It's one of the I guess the benefits of doing a 2-year budget, because we've already budgeted 2 years allocation for every department. So essentially what we're doing is taking from next year's budget. So when we do a budget, we have to do just kind of the formalities of the Oregon budget law. When we do this next budget, it'll be an increase. It'll be an increase over what we had originally budgeted, but we're fine from a statutory and a financing perspective, because all we're doing is taking money that's already been approved. It just happens to be from next year's budget. Yeah. Well, Bill, did I answer that correctly, more or less? Okay.
All right, great, thanks, Andy. Then next up is Public Works. Any comments or questions?
We ever thought about putting a logo on our tank?
A logo on the tank?
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about
dressing it up a little.
Yeah, some sort of art or making it, you know, a little more North Plainsy, but kind of wanted to get it finished first. But yes, good idea, and we can definitely visit and follow up on that. Yeah.
I only have questions, not so much on the report. I mentioned to the mayor, I just wondered, in regards to North Avenue, the construction on North Avenue, if we have at least a good oversight over their schedules and making sure that they're compliant. It seems like they tore up a lot of that road all at once. And I'm not saying that's not the way to do it, but it's a disruption, obviously. And I don't know how long it's going to be there and what the community feedback's been thus far. But because I've had nobody really come and grab me by the neck at this point. But I do have concern because I did drive over it. I just wanted to get a feel for, okay, what are they doing? And I wanted to get a sense of, do we have good oversight on the timeline? I know that Blake's winding his time down, so I don't know much about how much we're watching what they're doing and who is the oversight body. If we're regulatory, it's our city. I'm not so sure we have the expertise to make sure that, not that they'd be hoodwinking this, but I want to make sure it's done correctly to construction standards, similar to what the county would require. And then if we have to hire the services of an engineer to make sure what's going on is correct, that's the only thing that really concerns me. So that's the limit of my comment.
Right. No, we have gotten feedback, believe me. And so I spent time last week, you know, talking to residents, explaining what's going on, trying to get the most up-to-date schedule from the design engineer and the developer themselves, so we can get that out to the public. So we're working on it. We did get this reduced speed limit signs out and some signage for a change in traffic pattern. I want them to change their large sign from just saying caution to, how about some details, or 324 through 4/5, road grinding, something with a little more explanation, so people know that. So it's been very frustrating to me. I think part of the challenge has been when we do a city public project, we send something to every resident. We're there pretty much every day, making sure that the project goes the way it needs to. We know the schedule. We had a pre-com meeting with them. This may be a city road, but it's a private developer doing the work. So I think we just had and thus they're not really playing by our rules, because it'd be like just that they're constructing any other private road in their development, So it's been sort of a learning experience, but we're getting there. And every week we have a meeting on how is the schedule, has anything slipped or changed, aside from weather, which could happen. So we need to know that. So we give folks advance notice. So yeah, it's been a frustration for me too, but I'm hopefully we got, sort of the process we need. We've been on them enough. Andrew's there every day, every morning, making sure people get in and out of driveways. He's there at 7, pretty much. It's the first thing he does is go there, making sure gravel and stuff like that is compacted, because it wasn't a couple weeks ago, so barely sufficient enough. And he's there for, when they do proof rolls for roads. So he's familiar with that. He knows what a compacted road should look like. And then the city engineer will come out and we're not doing any sort of time or benchmark inspections, but they'll come out and just make sure that they're doing what they need to be doing according to the design. So yeah, I tried to elaborate that in Friday's email that spent a lot of time, but it's
Pretty hard to write all that.
Yeah.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none. Item 7D is Finance Director report.
I'm gonna let Bill Reed take this one.
Hi, Bill.
Hello, everyone. There is a finance report for the month of February, but it didn't get out in time for your agenda packet. I can send it out and make it available to you all, but there were really kind of two things to point out for the month of February. except for the fact that a lot of the text, a lot of what happened during the month of February is very similar to what's been happening. And that's overall things have been basically at or just a bit under budget for all the departments. And we have a few different categories that we're watching because, for instance, we're doing a lot of planning with the UGB and we're doing a lot of development review, paying for engineer to take a look at projects. So we have a few different categories of this and that we're watching, but by and large, a lot of what you heard in February about January is true of February. A couple things that I wanted to note though. Number one is we have 41 permitted or building permits from Washington County for Bryn Hill. And therefore we've received 41 different payments for all of our SDCs, TDT, and other development fees. So that's 41 lots at this point that we've registered, and we just got a few more today, so we'll be recording those. But anyway, that's where we are as of our information in our accounting system as of today. And that, of course, those all that money goes to our different capital accounts, so that isn't operating revenue. The other thing I kind of wanted to point out had to do with overdue balances for water utility accounts. We kind of had a mixed month. We're actually down. The good news is we're down to only 6 total accounts in the entire city overdue 90 days or more. And that's basically at a long time low. So the effort on working on those accounts has paid off. So we're down to just a few that are very troublesome over a long period of time. The downside is during the month of February, whether people are holding on to money to pay taxes, or the holidays hit them hard, hit family or households hard, and they're tightening their belts. Overdue balances 30 to 60 days went up by about $2,500. So we'll be watching those as they hopefully don't go much longer. But we did see a total increase of about $2,500 in overdue balance for all accounts. But all the work being put on the very long overdue accounts has been paying off. So we're doing well there. Other than that, first budget committee meeting is Wednesday, April 20th. We technically have 2 seats vacant. We have an application in that we're sure that person will get on to the budget committee. She's a very active member of another committee. So we have one, as far as I know, unless Lori can update us something differently, we only have 1 vacant seat left really. So April 20th, keep spreading the word, and hopefully that one will fill up if it hasn't already. That's it for me. Stand for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Bill. No questions on our end. Item 7E is the land use applications. Any questions for Andy? All right, hearing none. Item number 8A, ordinance number 477 is zoning and comp plan text amendment. So this is just the item to conduct a second reading of ordinance number 477 by title only. I don't think we need any additional information. So, Council, do you have any questions? If not, then I will entertain a motion.
I move to conduct second reading of ordinance 477 by title only.
Right, we have a first by Councilor Smith. Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Councilor Sheldon seconded the motion. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Ordinance number 477 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of North Plains, Oregon, implementing an update to the zoning and development code and the comprehensive plan. All right, the second motion that we have in the packet is to approve ordinance number 477. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 477.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a first and a second, and Counselor Pittman and Counselor Smith. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is resolution 2175-2177. This is updating the SDC methodology. So at this time, this is our public hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing at 7:21. And Andy or Phil? And
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to do so. Do you want me to put the staff report up on the screen, or does everyone have it there? You're good? Okay. It's basically sort of rehashing the draft report that FCS did for us, and that's based on everything that we had at that work session. Oh, there's Todd. I believe that was in February. None of the figures have changed since that date in the report. So we shared all of this information with the builders and the building community, and the feedback that we got from them, we incorporated and acknowledged and kind of took into account and refined a few things. And that is acknowledged in the final SDC amounts that we have. The reality is, if the city had been indexing these to inflation all the years since many of them were, the methodologies were adopted, in some cases 10 years ago, in some cases more than 15 years ago, we're not that far past where we should be. All we've done is take into account a lot of the projects that are in the master plans and the CIP that's been adopted the last few years. So what we're proposing is an overall increase of about $5,300 basically per rooftop, per single family detached home, a $2,000 increase in parks SCCs, about $990 in water, and $2,100 in transportation SDC. And that would sort of make sense from a growing city perspective. Transportation infrastructure costs are difficult to keep up with, especially when you kind of reach a period in time when inflation is what it is. So like I said, those numbers were shared with the home builders. The only feedback we got from them was, sounds great. So I don't think it's going to impact their pro formas very much. The other thing I guess the other two things we're proposing is, indexing this to inflation every year in line with the fiscal year. So pretty much when we enter a new budget year, the SDC amounts will be reflecting that and go concurrent with the fiscal year. And they'd be based on a year over year index of construction costs, or in the transportation case, it's going to kind of track the formula that Washington County uses for TDT, which is a good indicator to take in those costs. So indexing is one, and we're also proposing varying the SDCs in the homes by the size of square feet. That's in one way to help those that want to provide sort of a smaller footprint of home and a varying type and size of home, get a little bit of a discount on the SDCs. If something is a little bit smaller and modestly sized, then there's a bit of a discount on the SDC. And of course, they're using typically less resources or water or less wear and tear on the transportation system anyway. So those would be a little less. And a larger home, 2,500 square feet or more, would pay a bit more in SDCs. But the reality is, a standard home, one of those single family detached that's being built in North Plains around that 23 to 24, 2,500 square foot price, it lands right in the median range of the proposed SDC amounts that we landed on that are shown in that table anyway. And that's something that cities are doing to kind of help with getting, I guess, a variety of home sizes in town. So overall, we're still in the bottom third of SDC amounts in the county, Washington County, Western Metro region. I think that shows we're pretty affordable place to do business and to build a home. We can't really affect the home price that homes go out for sale for. That's time for another discussion, but I think we could say that the city is doing its part by trying to keep SDCs low and moderate while also looking after our infrastructure needs. So what Spencer did was prepared 3 separate resolutions, 2175, 76, 77 for each of the SDCs. And that was done, I think, intentionally in case anyone wanted to come back in time, challenge one of the methodologies. We're revisiting one of the SDCs in one resolution rather than all 3 together. But no home builders are on the call here tonight. I think that's a good sign. And I believe, Spencer would have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these go into effect 60 days after adoption. So we'd be looking at May, kind of mid-May, latter part of May.
Yeah, that's correct. They go in effect 60 days. And the reason that odd time is provided for in the resolutions is because the appeal period for challenging the adoption of a new SDC update is 60 days. So we just didn't want to create any potential overlap there. So they'll go into effect as soon as the appeal periods run. And the other thing, to follow up on what Andy said, there's three resolutions adopting the 3 methodologies and SDC updates separately. In the event that when the council wants to revisit these in the future, they can revisit some, but not all of them if it's proven not to be necessary.
Yeah, also a good point.
So 3 separate motions.
Can you make one motion, Spencer? I move to
I'd recommend it's not a lot extra effort to just keep the record clear doing them one at a time.
So I just have clarification, just looking on page 104, 145. So it's the new calculated SDCs for single family detached home. And so there's a column that's titled draft and then column revised. So what does that draft column represent? Is that
we are one, what did you say?
page 104?
Oh, 104. Okay, looking this up here. Oh, just in the staff report. Draft was when we originally took all of our project lists together, and when FCS was originally doing the work, and came up with that amount. The one that's eye-popping is going to be the parks. So what we did is we revised some things from our master plan. Like for instance, there are some things in there like, trail maintenance. Well, it included some of our old, they're color trails, but they're really just kind of sidewalks and streets. We're going to be building new sidewalks anyway. So we kind of discounted some of those things like that. Looking at a $15,000 parks SEC, that's probably one of the higher ones in the entire region. So we had a conversation with home builders. We tried to find a middle ground, and where we landed was that by taking out some projects, that ended up being the revised amount in February. So that was after having sort of a good faith discussion with them and hearing their concerns. We went from draft in October to the revised amount in February, and that's the amount that we're putting forward today.
Is that 19,473?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Any other questions, Councilor Smith?
When you say 60 days, is that after, when they put in for the permits, can they put the permits in before, or what is it?
Yeah, anything that comes in before the effective date, 60-day forward, would be under the current SDC charges, and anything on the 61st day would be under the new SDC charges.
What would stop them from jamming a bunch of permits in?
There isn't anything to stop them from doing that other than the timing of when the developers can plan to be ready to submit for their permits. But as Andy indicated, this is kind of SDC SDCs are usually adopted as kind of a long-term program. So you're just, what you're talking about is more of a snapshot in time, and these fees are going to carry forward. The resolutions also all have indexes that they adopt for, so that the hiccup that Andy was talking about with the current SDCs, that problem resolves itself going forward. So really the nature and approach of these resolutions, the methodology that they adopt is taking a larger kind of more 30,000 foot approach to the city's SDC program than just worrying about a handful of permits that might potentially come in the next couple months.
Any other questions, Counselor Smith?
No, it's fine. Curious.
I have comments, but I'm not going to say that.
No, I think for me, just thinking about how little land we have to build on, and the idea of giving a builder a discount, I feel like we should be charging a premium, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with making it equitable, because that $5,000 difference between a standard home versus a large home. I don't necessarily think the builder's going to pass that savings on to a home buyer, but I'm willing to go with the consensus here. But I don't know if this is a situation that I think we should be equitable to a builder when we already have such limited opportunities for tax base. For housing prices, like they're gonna build her no matter what the price is, likely. And you're the experts, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't want to leave any money on the table.
Well, thank you for that comment. And I'm probably like Bill. I like to look after our finances and take in whatever we can, but I might defer to someone like Bill, who sort of studied, knows a little bit more about the real estate market, and perhaps Todd Chase with FCS too. I'm happy to have a discussion about that, because that's a concern of mine too. And I think we've even flat out asked, if the city is, reasonable in some of these SDC amounts, do you pass these on? Is there there's really no way that we can, hold them to account on that. We can't do a deed restriction on their, on their lots or anything for not charging what we want. So, yeah, I'm happy to, I don't know, Bill or Todd, if you guys have any thoughts or feedback to that sort of question, because this is, it's a wrinkle, varying them by size, but it's certainly not something that we have to do. So
I'll just make two quick points. One is it's kind of a forward-looking approach. A lot of states are already doing this outside of Oregon. And what it means is that if a developer wants to build, say, a cottage home development with like 10 or 12 cottages on a couple acre lot, we're starting to see interest in that. Forest Grove has a developer who's interested in doing that. And so this, if you use a standard SDC approach, each home, if it's a detached home, they would be pretty much charged the same thing, whether they're a 1,000 foot home or a 3,000, 4,000 foot home. So it's one way to at least provide a little bit of in this case, it's a difference in cost of about 11,000, 12,000 per dwelling, per rooftop, going with the scaled SDC. So it could make a difference in the future. It probably won't make a difference, hopefully, financially to the city. I think you're still going to be fine. You're going to collect about the same amount of revenue either way. But it does potentially provide a new avenue for a little more attainable housing to get constructed locally. And the other point I want to make is, as the city considers a urban growth boundary adjustment based on residential needs, DLCD is on the ilk that cities have to try to everything they can do to possibly make housing more attainable in their community. And by adopting this type of scaled approach, I think it's showing good faith to DLCD that you're doing what you can as a city. And there's so much cities can do other than make land available and serve it with infrastructure. But beyond that, you're doing what you can as a city to foster more attainable housing.
And I think I want to piggyback on Councilor Papen's comment, and you know, just say that it's not, you know, if I'm thinking down the road, you know, who actually, what you said other cities are doing this throughout the country. Do you know who was like the champion for this thought process? You know, my part of my, you know, concern or my skepticism about that is like, oh, is it a smoke and mirrors kind of thing? You know, from the builders saying, oh, if you lower, we'll build these smaller houses, and you know, is it something that, like Councilor Papen was saying, you know, are we leaving money on the table? I understand that if you know, you lower them, the cottage clusters are a good idea. You know, people are trying to make more affordable housing and housing available, you know, smaller scale. Totally get that, but is it? Where did this idea, this concept come from? Do you know?
Well, I think Newport, Oregon was probably the first city to do this, that we've done in Oregon. Portland has a variation of this for parks. Hood River has a variation now. And of course, Colorado and Idaho, a lot of the cities charge based on either lot size or number of bedrooms or square feet. So, you know, I think and one thing you could do as a city is you could revisit kind of this program every 3 to 5 years. Hillsborough has chosen to do this, and just make sure it's calibrated, make sure it's working fine, make sure you're not under collecting, or, you know, and change course if you need to.
I just wanted to follow up on that as well, because I heard your explanation for the original thought process, and a lot of cities are doing this for cottage clusters, but also thinking about our plans. And Bill or Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but even our projected growth isn't even going to meet the threshold for HB 2001 to have cottage clusters with no housing in North Plains. So why would we want to make that? Why would we want to make that accessible if that's not even on our future or horizon?
I guess I'll answer it and say this is something that Planning Commission has been working on, is trying to make some of those various housing types attainable, not nearly to the level of HB 2001, but you know, in some sense, the state itself, I think, is creating some of these. I mean, aren't they doing statewide law changes for single family zoning to try to create a little bit more density? So we're not going the same scale as being a metro city that's you know, subject, or you know, 10,000 population or over, that's subject to HB 2001. But these are things that the Planning Commission has been exploring. So I think that's maybe the subject of another conversation about, you know, what exactly you want housing to look like in North Plains if some of these things don't fit. So that's maybe a little bit outside the scope of this, but I think that's probably a good thing to take up with them, to have that sort of frank discussion about housing types and varieties.
Madam Mayor, if I could jump in, sorry, Bill, I don't mean to interrupt, but one thing to just kind of follow up on that, the legislature also just passed a law this last session that directs DLCD to take a look statewide at SDC programs and make a determination of whether or not those programs are having an impact that is potentially negatively having a negative impact on affordable housing in jurisdictions. And so when I read that, I assumed all of this other discussion is good and valid reasons for it, but I assumed that it was directly intended to address that new law as a show of good faith that the city's not trying to use its SDC program to dissuade the availability of affordable housing in North Plains.
Even so, though, even with the new proposed SDCs, we would still be on the lower end of the spectrum, though, correct?
I think, I mean, that's what Andy said in his report.
Yeah, kind of around the bottom third, the higher level of the bottom third of the region. Yeah.
Well, you can debate this half the night. The reality is, if you're a city and you offer a generous amount of services and you grow those services, you're going to have a generous SDC to figure out how you're going to pay for them going forward. That's not our case. We don't need to be in the top. We just need to have a reasonable SDC, basically, which allows us to move forward with our infrastructure without getting in the lurch and without overcharging people. Simple as that.
Any other comments? I see that we have someone on the Zoom call, and since we're still in a public hearing, this time I'd like to ask if there are anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this topic. Let the record show that no one from the general public had made comment on this topic. If there's no other comments or questions from the council for staff, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:42. So we have, we've been directed to have 3 separate motions for this resolution. It's in the packet. The first one would be to adopt resolution 2175, which is the water SDC methodology update. Do I have a motion, please?
I move to adopt resolution 2175 to update the city of North Plains system development charge methodology.
Have a second?
Well, second.
All right, I have a first by Councilor Smith, second by Councilor McKeon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Second one would be resolution 2176, which is the TSP transportation SDC methodology update. Have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve resolution number 2176, City of North Plains adopting updated transportation SDC methodology update for resolution 2176.
Second.
All right, we have a first by Councilor Sheldon, second by Councilor Pittman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. And then our last one is resolution 2177, which is the Parks SDC methodology update. I have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 2177 for the Northlands revised park system development charge. Park SDC methodology.
We have a first, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a first by Council Capen, seconded by Council Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you, council. All right, next up, we have unfinished business. Nothing in that slot, and then the city manager report. Andy.
Okay, thank you. Well, I didn't put one in the packet for you. I typed all that stuff on Friday and I thought this is kind of what I would have said anyway, but I'll highlight a few things. So yeah, budget season's coming up. It'll be, we won't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting that we normally would, which would be kind of nice. We're going to have one supplemental budget coming to the group before then, just to take care of one fund that we sort of under appropriated. And funnily enough, it's actually related to SDCs because we thought a lot of this draft report was going to be done the previous fiscal year. So we didn't, so the previous fiscal years had enough money from, we kind of split the cost from all three funds. We didn't put enough this year in, so we'll do a supplemental for that. That's not a big deal, but that's the only one at this time. The sheriff's contract, the 3-year contract, expires at the end of this fiscal year. We're gonna have a work session in early May with SO leadership to discuss sort of what's worked, what we would like to see changed, kind of what the community wants. There's a lot of things we'd have to clean up, basically anyway, because of a lot of items that were related to the transition from 3 years ago. At that time, we'll have prepared some information regarding a local option levy. We'll have a lot of information by that time, and we can discuss around that same time also in early May. There's still the goal setting session, or the priority session, I kind of call it also. There's going to be some follow-up because we all sort of got tired at the end of 5 hours, but we knew there's some things to follow up on. So I was just emailing with Sarah today. We're going to talk tomorrow about what that might look like. She asked when could we get a couple more hours out of the council again. So I'm kind of determining how that may happen. It would be good, but I mean, between now and the end of the fiscal year, we've got quite a lot of stuff to do in our meetings. So maybe we can think of some way to do a work session. I'll talk to you, Madam Mayor, about that, maybe what might work, but to kind of wrap things up. And we'd like to do it sooner rather than later. We don't want to be doing this in June or anything. We kind of want to do it while things are still fresh. So I'm going to discuss with her tomorrow what that might look like. So we've had a few public works and planner applications coming in. Those are due April 1st. So I'm kind of reviewing some of those that are coming in. I think I mentioned this on Friday, but Bill and I had a meeting last week with Hillsborough's planning and economic development team to go over sort of the EOA draft numbers and the economic development aspirations that North Plains has. So that was a good meeting, some good discussions, and those will be ongoing. But the EOA, that draft, it's about ready to kind of go out to the different boards and committees, and it'll be the topic of conversation at the April ED's Economic Development Committee meeting. And the consultant that put together the EOA will be there to present. I believe that's right, Bill? Yep, so that would be April 4th, I think. So that's on Zoom if anybody wants to kind of get the inside baseball on that, sort of what the interviews and what the analysis, all of that amounted to. The Planning Commission later that month in April will also have some time in a work session to go over the EOA. And then it will be before them in May for adoption, and then that same month to the City Council to consider for adoption. So we'll have a couple different boards and committees kind of looking at it, a couple different work sessions for them to look at it. And I think it would be good if the city council could either attend the EDC meeting or the planning commission meeting to kind of see what you saw the numbers at the work at the retreat 2 weeks ago. So it's just kind of what went into this. How was the sausage made, essentially? So there'll be more information coming out on that as we kind of get into the month. Other things going on, but I covered a lot on Friday. I guess the last thing I'll mention is fireworks. It's been a challenge. With the news of the golf tournament up at Pumpkin Ridge, they have, the people that are proposing that tournament have the course reserved until July 3rd. Actually, it's supposed to be until July 3rd, but they reserved for an extra day in case of a weather delay. So it could very well conceivably, it would be into July 4th. I'm not, I'm kind of at the point now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So we looked at some other spots on the east side and 3 different properties. It's the problem with they're being farmed, and that's the harvest time, and farmers aren't wanting to use the property at that time. So I don't know, the mayor and I have kind of gone back and forth on maybe one last option, and we haven't gone there yet. If we go around the Britton Hill area again, so we'll talk about that. But we've tried. There will be other fireworks shows in the county, at the very least this year, so it wouldn't be the end of the world. And it's $20,000 that could go to Pacific Purple Park that was budgeted for fireworks if it came to that. So there will be ways to spend the money that we had budgeted for it, but we're kind of at our last end point for finding a safe way to do it that both the fireworks vendor and TVF&R will sign off on as being, yeah, this is a safe place to do it, because as you know, we've had some hairy experiences in the past. So just wanted to make you aware there. We've been trying over the last week, but kind of run into some roadblocks. So that's all I have to report for them. I'll be gone Friday and Monday, but I'll still have this, so I won't be off the face of the earth. And Bill will be the acting city manager in my stead. Robin's at a conference then, so he won the lottery. Let's hope there's no emergency.
Any questions or comments for Andy on his report? And your weekly reports are great. It's probably a good data dump for you too, to head into the weekend, I think, huh?
Yeah.
It's probably
Yeah,
been
it
a
is.
little helpful. But they've been great, and the detail's good. I wanted to just say, Councilor Payton, if you saw the Garbarino boots wrap. So I know I had a conversation with Anthony, and then Andy had a conversation with him too about that. So you were in mind when those conversations were taking place, because you had brought that up. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, so related to that, he's got some, just reach out to a couple partner agencies on the educational materials for people, because that's sort of the biggest thing. It's a lot of people are already throwing the food in the yard debris baskets. That's just already happening. We know that. So, but to make it a sort of a sanctioned thing, I mean, in our franchise, solid waste is solid waste. Whatever waste you produce goes in a bin. It doesn't really matter. But we just want to get some educational materials out to folks. If it's an actual, if it's an actual, program that they offer that people know, what they should and should not be throwing in there. Because I don't know if you remember these stories, like the early days in Hillsborough, that like the entire buckets, Far West was finding the entire buckets were just getting thrown out because people really didn't follow the rules, or they hated the buckets. I don't know, but that's something we'll get going here in the next month or two, and because he had a start date of June 1 to do that. So over the next couple months, we'll kind of continuously roll out some things for people so they know.
No, that's good. Start down there with you.
Okay. The West Union Trail is basically done, correct?
There's a few small things to finish up and clean up, but yeah, it's getting there. Yeah.
Now, I don't know, the correct name for it, the Bartlett Loop Trail that goes behind the housing. Is that still consideration?
Yeah, it's sort of on the back burner right now because the next little trail project we'll do will be connecting the Veterans Park over to 314th, another sort of boardwalk project. And that one's already designed and it's got 2 permits already done. So that's kind of lined up. But I think it was going to be called McKay or Mackay. I still don't know. Mackay Creek Trail. But that's, we'll just have some work to do with the homeowners over there.
Yeah, 'cause they had some worries about people walking back there through the middle of the night.
Yeah, we really haven't done anything on that trail or done any outreach, for 8 months or 6 months or so. So it hasn't really gone any further.
And then the other one probably goes along with what we talked about 2 weeks ago is the grant money we received for Jesse Mays.
Mhm.
Since this is kind of like the community center, putting the thought of doing a kitchen or something, so we can have events over here at the community center. So I just want to put that in there. This is about what this is.
I've thought that too. I'm hoping by Wednesday we get the engineer's estimate for the big project out here.
Correct.
And that it will be big, I think, in this time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have to dip a little bit into the ARPA money for that, but we'll see. It's kind of what that's the good thing is, we have a little bit of flexibility there if we needed to.
Well, with the grant money we got, we already had the money for Jesse Mays. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got money from the legislature for the path over there and for Jesse Mays. Mhm.
So the
Yeah.
extra money could go towards making this a community center.
Oh, yeah. No, the kitchen, I've thought of that for a couple of years and getting a grant definitely helps. Maybe take that to fruition. We're also going to put air conditioning in here. So that's another thing. So we're meeting here this summer. It won't be a death trap. So yeah, I could kind of consider bathroom phase 1, all of this phase 2, air conditioning phase 3, and then that could be the final one before whatever comes next, we do all the floors or something. I love the floors are good.
Anything else? All right. Councilor Baker, anything? No. Councilor Sheldon?
Nothing.
Nothing? All right. So let's see, we went to, we had a clean water services tour on the 11th. Butch and Andy and myself attended, we went up to Scoggins Dam. That was a really, it was a good educational piece. Went to the WCCC meeting, Washington County Coordinating Commission meeting on the 14th, and they increased their TBTs. So there's a lot of fee increasing going on in the county. So that was a big discussion that we had. We also discussed the MS-TIP, major streets. So the streets of the countywide interest map, that should be coming out. And Andy, I'm sure your manager's group has also probably talked a little bit about that.
Yep.
But that map is coming out, so it'll be really interesting to see what that looks like and what major streets in Washington County will be on their goal list or their focus list. And I had a mayor and the chair, Washington County, Chair Harrington, and a few mayors were at the meeting this afternoon. We have a monthly meeting and discussed just the kind of fireworks and ARPA funding. Dorian Russell from the county gave a really great presentation on the ARPA funding for the county, and they were supposed to send the PowerPoint to all the mayors. So once I get that, I see that, I'll forward that on to you all. You might find that interesting. And then lastly, well, actually 2 things. On Wednesday, March 30th is the Small Cities meeting here at Jesse Mays at 11 a.m. The League of Oregon Cities is hosting it, we're hosting the location, senior centers providing food for the luncheon, the League of Oregon Cities, and the chair will be here hosting that meeting. If any of you are around between 11 and 1 and want to participate, let me know. And then the State of the City address is that evening here at Jesse Mays, and I know Councilor Sheldon will be there, not only as the council president, but also the chamber president. So if the two of you could attend, that would be wonderful. All right. We would love your RSVP too, just for planning purposes. Again, the senior center is providing some snacks, some light appetizers and tea and water. So just seeing after the meeting if you need more information. And then lastly, and then Peak Chiropractic here in town on March 31st, from I think 4:30 to 6:30. They're hosting a wellness clinic for the community, and they would really love it if community members and electeds and whoever else, you can bring your family. There's giveaways, there's about 8 or 10 sponsors, but it's just a wellness opportunity for that local business, and they would love it if folks can come and just, participate. So if you need more information, see me after the meeting as well. So, and yes, staff's invited, everyone's invited. So it's just a neat way to get together. So other than that, I think that's it for me. And the meetings for April are listed. If you have any issues with those, definitely speak up. And anything else before we call it a night?
I've got a question. Did you receive any feedback or any, did you get any takers on the Polish workshop for the city? Or the sheriff's office from the city council?
You saying that was the first feedback I've gotten. Was that a?
Well, if nobody's gonna take it, I'll take it, because somebody from this council should be on that panel.
Okay.
So just go ahead and commit me. I'm committed.
Okay. All right. I'll let them know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for stepping up, Councilor Sheldon. I was waiting to see if there was a taker before I threw my name in the hat on the table. So thanks. I know you've got enough going on too. It's important that someone from here is in that group. It's very important. So thanks again for doing that.
April, what was it? April
April 4th, I believe.
5th.
Fifth.
April 5th.
It's a Tuesday night, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the city council meeting at 8:03 p.m. You all have a good night.
Good night. Thanks, Russ. Do you?